talk about creating variations. So once again, to deploy a Reddit story ad, you would want to launch an ad set and have 3 to 5 of these variations, including the original ad that you created, right? So just as a quick recap, the market intelligence report is going to report a lot of times, it should always, but in most cases, it should report 5 emotional tension points, things that emotionally drive our target audience extracted directly from Reddit. You can think of these almost as 5 different avatars, so to say. I don't like using that word for this example because they're not avatars, right? They're just specific circumstances and people that have gone through specific shared experiences. So it's similar to avatars, quite, it's similar, but it's not quite that, right? Because we're not getting characteristics about that person. We don't know what kind of car they drive. We don't know if they have a family or not, unless mentioned in the story itself, right? We don't know a lot about the other detailed things about them. We know what they've tried in the past, the emotional pains that they're going through, and then how it's making them feel, which is good enough to make really successful copy and make a ton of money. You don't necessarily need to go further than that with this type of copy. So tension 1 would be considered its own ad set, and the story you just created is one of the first ads, right, of that. We need 4 more, right? At least 2 to 4 more. And you're gonna see in the variation timeline testing SOP training that I put together, you should never have less than 3 ads within an ad set, because the whole point of ads is for your Facebook to continuously bid against each other in the auction, so the best one performs and gets most of the spend, right? That's how Facebook continuously learns, right? If you don't feed it information, which is ads, to buy the data, then it's not going to get any smarter. So less ads, and it's, well, actually, I got to catch myself there. It's not about having less or more ads, right? It's about having good intentional ads and a minimum of at least 3 that can continuously spend and fight in the auction. So I recommend no less than 3, no more than 10. 5 is a sweet spot there. That's why I came to that number. It's just, it's between the numbers 3 and 10, basically. So that's essentially what you would want to tackle. You would want to go with 5. I mean, might as well, right? The variation document that I put together here for you will create 4 additional variations, giving you a total of 5 ads. Math is fun and easy. So keep in mind, this story you created and the variations of that will all be mainly centered around this tension point, which is tension point 1. Throughout the story, you'll see that, we'll extrapolate and include another tension point. I believe in this story, we did tension points 1 and 3. You can verify this in the kind of pre-flight checklist, similar to what we normally do here. So is it in this? So here we go, right? So under emotional tension, you can see that it's primarily going to speak on tension 1, but just due to overlap and people sharing shared experiences, you're going to see that they're going to use for the agitation layer, tension 3. That's fine. The focus here is going to be primarily tension 1. I've tried everything and nothing has worked. So that is going to be its own ad set. And then we're going to create 4 variations of that ad or that ad that we created so we can get a nice hefty test in. Here's a clear distinction. I'm using the word variation, but I want you to understand that these are going to be, I almost want to give it another name. These are going to be arc variations. Yeah, let's give it another name. We're going to be creating 4 arc variations, which is basically just going to be 4 angles, right? Like these are going to be angles that we create essentially. And I don't want to use too many different interchangeable words because it can get confusing. But all you have to understand is that we're going to create 4 separate ads to go along with this ad. So that way we have 5 ads under the same ad set with the focus of speaking primarily to tension 1. I've tried everything and nothing has worked. These ads should feel different though. Something I've learned and noticed when you go into Claude and say, hey, you copy this, right? And you copy this. And let's say, we say, give me a variation of this ad. The problem is Claude is literally going to output this exact, not the exact, but it's going to output the same ad from the standpoint of how the hook starts, the emotional point, the agitation, the mechanism, everything's going to sound and feel the same. It's just going to be in a slightly new story. So if the whole story here was, this person was going on a walk and discovered the product, now they found the product sitting at home at 3 a.m. in their bed. So that is not good enough, right? The whole premise here of creative testing is having enough creative diversity. If we create an ad that's similar and that first ad is underperforming, we just create a variation, a direct variation of that, and it's underperforming, then that's going to lead us to a problem where we're not going to be able to get a testing. We're just throwing up the same nonsense, expecting a different result. Now, I want to time out real quick and just make this star note here. Maybe you should write this down. When scaling, that is fine. When scaling and you have an ad that's performing well, simply just asking Claude to create a variation of it is good because that framework and that audience and that avatar is converting. So we just want to create as many variations as possible. That is okay. But when we're, again, talking about getting out of testing, because this whole section and the whole premise here is specifically geared towards getting out of testing and getting to a point where you can get into scaling. We'll have a separate training and module on scaling. So the questions you're wondering, well, what if this is, those are going to be addressed and answered in the scaling trainings. But basically, it's okay to create variations if you're scaling and your ad's doing well. But obviously, you're watching these trainings and you're going through this, and you're probably not having a successful ad right now. So creating one-to-one variations isn't smart. So ultimately speaking, what we're doing, guys, is just creating 4 different angles of the story we just created. So similar to the avatar story building prompts that we put together, it's the same thing here. It's just worded a little bit differently for the distinguishment, but it's the same exact target pain point and everything, but just written 4 additional different ways. All right. So hopefully that's clear. Now, it's very important, though, that we create a clear distinction, right? So in the prompting, you can see that I'm trying to specifically create variations based off of different emotional engines. So how this prompt works, right? The prompt is designed to be pasted into the same conversation where you ran the original native ad copy prompt. Claude reads back through the conversation and find the prompt intelligence report, the extraction data, and the confirmed story configuration, and the final approved copy. No repasting, no reconfiguration. So what Claude produces: 4 complete story variation written sequentially. Each one is a different emotional arc, same product, same mechanism, same mass desire, completely different journey to the same destination. Every arc or angle, guys, same terminology. Each arc has a defined emotional engine, a different entry point, right? So how did they get into this discussion? A different failed solution leading the agitation, and a different mechanism framing, and a different call to action voice. Claude writes 1 arc at a time and asks whether it feels emotionally distinct enough before writing the next. Each arc ends with an image concept, so all 4 are immediately deployable. The final output for each arc is clean, continuous. Okay, perfect. So That's another thing to clarify. Each ad gets their own image. You will never, ever, I want to make this clear distinction. You should never, ever duplicate ads and they have the same image, right? If you're really like at that level where you're granularly split testing image to see if you're way better off just creating a whole new image concept and testing new images. So I recommend different images. And if the images are similar, that's fine. Like if I had an image of this water bottle standing up and then maybe I had an image of the water bottles, laying on its side, spilled over, that's fine. Right? It's a different image at the end of the day. But generally speaking, try to have as much creative diversity. The more creative diversity you have, the more likely you are to see what works and what doesn't work, and if there's making a big enough difference in that. All right, so that's going to be important there. And then there's going to be some clarification here. So if you're like lost, what does an entry point mean, right? The moment the narrator gave up trying, not dramatically, quietly, they're not angry anymore, they're just done. The self-blamer, right? So this is going to explain like the different arcs that we can test, right? The quiet angry one, the reluctant believer. So these are going to be the 4 different arcs it's going to create. And again, guys, these are just angles. I'm basically just saying the word angle. All it is angles. Yeah, so that's how you need to understand. So guess what you need to do? All you got to do, simple. Just copy this prompt here. Copy it right up till before it says stop. Boom. Paste it in. And something I have not acknowledged, which I just realized at this point, is what version of Claude I'm using. Guys, that doesn't matter, man. Like I've tested this enough times to realize the output difference doesn't matter. One thing I do like to put on is extended thinking, but I also am on the max plan. So depending on how much you're paying per month and your subscription, you might want to use Opus. You might want to use Sonnet. Like I recommend, if you're unclear or confused, just go with Sonnet 4.6. If you're really, really trying to be meticulous, just Google it, ChatGPT, or ask Claude itself. When should I use Opus? When should I use Sonnet? Naturally speaking, Opus has been explained to me as a tool to use when it's just collecting and congruing data. Sonnet's more going to be for storytelling, copywriting. That's how I understood it. I've tested both. Because of how good the prompts that we're pasting in are, Claude is good at outputting whatever you need based off the model that you're using. So don't overthink it, man. Like it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. And if it matters that much to you, then research it, Google it your own, and figure out what you came up with. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to write the story out for you. You have to prove it to make sure you like it. You can adjust anything else, kind of like how we did the first story. And then boom, you just create these all as individual ads with individual images under the same ad set. You can do this in the same existing CBO that you already have running with your story images for your story prompts. Or if you want to, you can launch this in a new campaign. Up to you. Doesn't really matter. Realistically speaking, as long as these ads are getting spent, you're getting data behind it, and you can see whether it's working or not, is all that it comes down to. So this is arc 1. This would technically be your second ad, your ad angle 2, technically. So just to clarify that, and it's going to write out the entire story because again, it's going to take a look at this already proven story and framing, and then it's just going to create it in a different way. So I stopped booking the appointments on Tuesday every morning, no announcement, no decision. So this is the exhaustive surrender. So all you would want to do is just go here and read up on the exhaustive surrender and just read up on this and see if this aligns with the story that it put out in Claude. Make sure the copy is good. Read through this. It tells you the word count and gives you an image concept that you can use. Feel free to use the recommended image concept. If you don't want to, you want to use a different one, that's up to you too. You can do that. And then if that feels good, you just hit continue. And then just do the same thing. Boom. There you go. Another question you might be wondering, could I use this for the story building or the avatar testing prompts? Yeah, you can take one of your avatar, your ad copies that you've used for your avatar testing, throw it in here, and then just give context to Claude and say, hey, this is the ad copy that I want to build off of, and then throw in the same variation prompt, and then it'll create arcs off of that ad that you created. So yeah, you can do that as well. Totally can if you want to. Should you? Up to you. Obviously, if an ad or an avatar isn't proving anything to you, it's not looking good, then maybe it doesn't make sense to create more arcs off that avatar. Or if it is looking good, you can do that. Now, keep in mind, your angles that are provided to you for your avatars in your brand Bible would technically be your variations. So you could just work off of that and riff off of that. So just so you guys are aware. And then you just continue here again. So pretty self-explanatory, hopefully pretty straightforward. You do that until you get to 4 additional angles. So you'd have a total of 5 ads. And then obviously I'm not reading these right now, but you should just make sure you're catching anything, make sure you're not missing anything. And it tells you how they're distinctly different too, right? So leave a note here, note on proof B, skipping in this arc, the quietly angry. So as you can see, Claude, I've trained it in a way that's going to dynamically adjust your copy and what sections it needs based on the person you're speaking to in the arc. You can, again, read up more on this and figure out how this relates to who you're speaking to and why. So that's a very important note there. So pretty self-explanatory. So that's how you create your other ads that you would use. You can see there's going to be a variation in word count. Don't worry too much about the word count. If it's 1,000 to 1,200, 1,300, Claude's going to write in a way based off of what it feels like the story needs and on the arc itself. Deploy them, test them, see what's working best for you. That's all we really have for this training. Please go through and watch this one next, even before you launch your ads, because you want to understand the right expectation here and everything you need to be doing.